Hello, everyone. I wanted to first of all thank you so much for doing what you're doing, whether you're watching this live or you're watching it recording. What you're doing is essential to this world's progress, and that is you're caring enough about what your role here is on Earth that you're doing some research into it. No matter how much time you spend doing that, it is essential that we all do it. I think every once in a while, what would this world be like if every single one of us pursued what our purpose was, trying to identify it, trying to fulfill it? If every single one of us did that, I believe that there would literally be no problems experienced on Earth. So the Purpose Pursuer webinars is towards that end. We, as Blueprint Process practitioners, want to help you in pursuing your purpose. So once a month on the fourth Wednesday of every month at noon Pacific, we gather right here to share one of our 4 principles of purpose. Today, we're focused on principle number 1, which is that purpose is a divine event. Your purpose, whether you know it or not, whether you're pursuing it or not, is a divine event. And so we will be discussing a little bit of that here in a minute. But I wanted to let you know that the Blueprint Process practitioners are here to help you identify what your purpose is and use it to make this world a better place in the way that you are uniquely designed to do that. As practitioners, what we use is the Blueprint process to help you identify what that purpose is. There are 12 of us currently, and if you go to blueprintprocess.com, you'll see us and you'll be able to reach out to any one of us if you are interested in pursuing your purpose through the use of the Blueprint process. So today, I wanted to talk about principle number 1, which is that purpose is a divine event. If you go back to the recording, which you can find on our website from last month, you'll see that we talked about principle number 1 then as well. We just talked about different aspects than what we're going to be talking about today. So today, just so you know, we are going to be discussing 2 things. We're going to be discussing, first of all, that because purpose is a divine event, that means that it is not something that you are personally responsible to do. That means that God is actually doing your purpose through you. And if, as you've probably noticed, you're receiving this call or this pull to pursue your purpose, then that's the indicator that God is actually calling you to do it. Why? Because he needs you to do it. He needs each and every one of us to pursue our purpose relentlessly. So I had a client the other day remind me of the saying that it is either the tickle of the feather or the whomp of the sledgehammer. And that is God calling you, beckoning you to pursue your purpose. And like any of us, we can answer the tickle of the feather, or we can put it off until it becomes the whomp of a sledgehammer. We, the Blueprint Process practitioners, want to help you answer the call of the feather so you don't have to deal with the sledgehammer. You don't have to pick yourself up off the floor. So when you recognize that purpose is a divine event, 2 things occur. One is, as I mentioned, it's not you that's doing it. You are not personally responsible to do your purpose. We're responsible to listen to God and figure out what it is. And I'll be talking about that here in a minute. And the Blueprint Process practitioners, we help you do that along the way. The second thing that occurs is we recognize, okay, if God's shining himself through me as my purpose, most likely he's shining himself through every single one of us, all of us. So as you're moving throughout your day, the person at the grocery store, gas station attendant, yes, even the person standing on the corner holding up a sign asking for spare change, God is shining himself through each and every one of us equally with a unique purpose, a completely unique purpose, which, by the way, I will be talking about next month. We will be talking about how unique your purpose is. So today we're going to cover these two aspects, that because purpose is a divine event, it's God that's doing it. And the second thing, as I've mentioned, is that all of us have a unique purpose that God is shining himself through us. It's a fascinating paradigm shift that we'll be talking about. So let's talk about the first one, the fact that it's actually God doing it. When we think that it's us that's doing it, we vacillate on what I refer to as the ego spectrum. We go all the way from thinking that we're all that in a bag of chips, we're the superheroes, we have this great impact on the world, all the way, and sometimes in 2.3 seconds, from I'm all that in a bag of chips to I suck, I'm awful, who am I, what was I thinking, I'm not enough, the imposter syndrome, all of that. That is the ego spectrum. And the only reason that happens is because we get deluded into thinking that it's us that's doing it. It's on our shoulders. So there's a couple cool things by shifting that paradigm to recognizing, no, in actuality, God is the one that's doing it. First of all, this great paradigm shift, God is always bringing his A game. Always. You and me, not so much, right? Sometimes we're great, sometimes we're not. The results are infrequent at best, unreliable. So when we set down our human capability and we let God shine through us, and again, going through the blueprint process helps you figure out how to do this. If we let God shine through us, the coolest thing occurs. Our days become much more natural, effortless, and it feels more like a flow because we're not striving for perfection. We are not working relentlessly towards perfection or some goal. We're rather looking to God and letting him shine through us in the way that we are designed to express him. So let me talk about that for a minute. Each of us has a unique framework or blueprint, as we call it. And that's how God is shining himself through you in a way that is completely one of a kind. As I mentioned, I'll be talking about that more next month. But if we don't know what that framework is, then we don't know how to intentionally use it. The more we intentionally use it, the more natural and effortless and fun our day becomes. Especially when we count on that that's the way God is shining himself through us. If you think about it for a minute, if I know what my blueprint is, which I do, and I focus my efforts just on my blueprint, and I don't take on projects that cause me to use something that's not in my blueprint, it makes sense that my days would be so much more effortless because it's already within me. That's my personal framework. That's my way of expressing God. So when I stay in my blueprint, I am actually able to express God more. My efforts are much more efficient and effective. The people I work with are much more enjoyable for me to work with. They're energy bringing for me to work with. It feels like magic. It's amazing. It doesn't feel like the typical paradigm of work. The typical paradigm of work is you do whatever's asked of you and you roll up your sleeves and rub a little dirt on it and keep going. But the blueprint idea, this principle number one that suggests that purpose is a divine event, suggests that no, in actuality, you have a footprint. You have a place you're meant to operate and a bunch of places you're not meant to operate, because it's only in this space that God is actually shining his light through you. So if we tap into that and we trust that instead of our own capabilities, then, oh my gosh, the lid's blown off. And now we have limitless capacity within that blueprint. So you too have this blueprint. And again, when you know it, when you know what's in your tool shed, so to speak, you know what projects to take on. You know whom to work with. You know where to go. And doing just those things allows the light of God to shine through you. So you're much more effective, much more efficient, and it's much more enjoyable. It's like riding the super wave. It's just, you're just riding along. You're just going along for the ride. You're not having to use your own intelligence and your own strength. It's a pretty phenomenal experience. So I have a story to share with you for this. I have a client of mine, we're going to call him Carl. That's not his real name, but we're going to call him Carl. He was really struggling one day. And typically in our meetings, we're talking about his blueprint and his work, in fact. But this one particular day, he was struggling as a parent. His child, I believe at the time was 12, 13 years old, was spending an inordinate amount of time playing video games. You might resonate with this experience. I'm not sure. I certainly did as a parent. So Carl was pretty frustrated because his son was spending all this time on video games and he didn't know what to do about it. He was approaching it not through his blueprint. He was approaching the problem as he thought a parent should. And in today's day and age, the idea is you want to limit that. That's a bad thing. There's nothing good there. You want to try to train your child away from video games, whatever. So he was following this world view of how he should be as a parent. He was completely ignoring his blueprint. In our call that day, we did this beautiful departure where we were like, let's look at your blueprint for how to parent. We typically look at your blueprint for how to be in your work. Let's look at it instead for how to parent. It was the coolest thing ever. He had a bunch of little sticky flags and he stood back and looked at his blueprint, which by the way, when you determine when we uncover your blueprint, it's around 100 things. And in fact, if you look in Frank's video screen there, you can see he's got his blueprint right behind him. Yeah, he's pointing at it. There's a bunch of stuff there. And so he's standing there looking at his blueprint that looks very similar to Frank's, and he's taking his little stickies. And I asked him to flag everything on his blueprint that related to this event with his son, this challenge with his son. Well, guess what? He came away with his marching orders. And it was very different from the way he had been approaching the problem. As I said, he'd been approaching it from whatever standard parenting rule book is out there. But when he looked at his blueprint, he unearthed a couple of his natural tools that he could bring to bear on his conversations with his son that opened up a whole new world of possibility between he and his son. So not only was their relationship, it wasn't even maintained, it was increased actually, because he found a couple of blueprint items in there that suggested that maybe there was more research to be done as to why his son was enjoying the video games. Because they had those conversations, not only did his son start to balance that habit out a little bit better, but my client got a better view, a more accurate view of his son, all because he set down what the world was telling him he should do and looked at his blueprint for guidance. Again, recognizing that his blueprint is God expressing himself. So as soon as he opened the door to let God out, the whole thing went much more harmoniously and effectively. And it created an exponential result that still today is having impact as his son is now going to college. Fascinating. But this is the kind of miracle and magic we can expect when we allow God to come through us instead of just ourselves or the world, for example. So I'm hoping that by opening your thought to, okay, maybe it's not just me, maybe God is actually operating through me. I'm hoping that you will be more curious about how God is operating through you and be willing more to set down that ego spectrum, because both sides of that equation are dangerous. Both you thinking that you're all that and a bag of chips, all the way to you thinking that you suck. Neither one of those are good. And both of them are suggesting a sense of separateness from God, which actually is not the case. He placed you here at this point in the world's history to do something that expresses him in a unique way. And as you let him out, he can help you do that in this world in a much more efficient and effective manner. It's super cool. So I have this analogy that I want to share with you. You probably know the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Well, they say that it's sinking by so many degrees, like every year. It's got this rate of degeneration because it's not built on solid ground. Back in the day when they built the Leaning Tower of Pisa, they didn't do the study that they do these days to build something of that height and that weight. So consequently, like they were in the middle of constructing it and it already was starting to lean, and they kept going. Just unreal. So it's still slowly sinking. That's what it's like when we try to have our impact on this world without God. That's exactly what happens. It's a mess. It's leaning. It's falling apart. It's going to sink into the earth, into oblivion. And I know you wouldn't be watching this webinar if you didn't believe, you didn't feel a call, an urgency to do something in this world that nobody else can do. So the sooner you wake up to that, the sooner you'll, rebuild your tower so it's on your proper framework, your blueprint. And then, oh my gosh, there's no telling what your tower can do. And that's where I talk about this limitless sense. When you tap into your blueprint, you tap into the God that is within you and let him out. Your building can reach higher and further than you've ever imagined. And again, our world's paradigm is that, oof, if I just work harder, develop my muscle and work harder, I'll be able to have more of an impact. We discipline ourselves, we sacrifice, we take risks, we do all these things, we twist ourselves into pretzels, trying to have the impact on this world that we're supposed to have. All the while, God's like, hello, I'm here. I'm trying to express myself through you. Let me out. It is amazing what we do when we become conscious of what our blueprint is and intentionally use it to help others. All right, let me go into the second aspect of purpose being a divine event that I want to talk about, and that is that every single one of us is expressing God in unique ways. Every single one of us has a unique blueprint. Look at that blueprint on Frank's wall again. You have one, but it's unique. So where some people might actually share some of Frank's blueprint items, nobody has the same combination as him. He literally is one of a kind, just like you. Super important to ask yourself, why? My answer is because God needs you to express him in a way that nobody else can. And not just you, but every single one of those people that you see around you. Even those people that you can't see around you, every single one of us is needed. So as I was preparing this talk today, I was thinking this image of a beautiful rose came to my mind, a fully opened rose. And for some reason, light pink. I don't know why I was thinking light pink. I was seeing this beautiful rose with light pink. Well, like the ones that are perfect, they've got all these individual petals. Now, if you've ever seen a rose that's starting to die, the rose petals start to fall off. And it's not as beautiful. It's not as full. It's not as complete. Well, when each of us are shining our light as we're intended, we create something like a rose, a fully formed, perfectly represented rose. Each one of us are needed in order for that rose to be complete and have the impact that it's supposed to have. It is essential that not only you recognize that purpose is a divine event in you, it's essential that you recognize it in everyone around you as well. So let's go back to our story with Carl and his son playing the video games relentlessly. When he sat down and talked to his son using his blueprint and asked his son, why? What is it about these particular games that literally causes you to not be able to put the controller down? His son had some really insightful answers that led Carl, my client, to see his son's blueprint a little better. That recognition caused him to allow his son to understand that his son is also one of a kind. So he was able to actually identify some blueprint items that his son has continued to use. And as he's going into college and looking at colleges and deciding what his major is going to be, that information has become critical for him. So that he chooses appropriately. He chooses his major, he chooses his life path appropriately to match his blueprint, which is something we're all supposed to do. So you have your own blueprint that you're trying to find. Good on you. But I would also encourage you to look for blueprints in others. Look for how God represents himself in others. And to the degree that you're able, let them know what you see. Remember how I said, if you intentionally let God out, you will be amazed at how much more effortless your life becomes and how much more effective your effort is. Well, when you're using your blueprint, it feels natural. It feels easy. You feel confident, so much so that you might think to yourself, well, it comes so easily to me. It must come just as easily to everyone else. We tend to actually devalue the God that is within us because it's so easy. Well, that's dangerous, isn't it? If I think that the God that is within me is in everybody else, then I'm not going to put it out there that much because everyone must be able to do it too. But if you think about it, you'll remember times in your life when someone has said to you, oh my gosh, I can't believe you were able to do that so well, so effectively, so easily. I could never do that. Cooking comes to mind because I cannot cook to save my life. But for some people, not only can they do it well, they love it. That's like weird to me. This is evidence of our unique blueprints. Yes. And cooking, I know, is more of a seen more as a hobby to some, but it doesn't matter. Each and every one of us are meant to express God in unique ways. And he was so smart because instead of making it difficult for you, he not only wanted to make it fun for you, but also capable, something that you're competent to do. So whenever you feel that natural confidence, that's your clue. When you're feeling confident about something, not because of certificates you have on the wall or experience in your life, but you just have that natural inner confidence because of whatever it is you're doing, you're sensing God doing it. That's why you're confident. You're not confident in yourself. You're confident in him. So super cool. So I have a couple of action items for you from this conversation. A couple of things that you can start doing. Any great endeavor starts with research. I love that so much. You don't have to commit to anything to begin something new in your life. All you need to do is research, study what's in front of you. So most likely, either right now or in the next little bit, a curiosity will come over you, something to try, something to research, something to study. Follow that step by step. If you just keep following your curiosity, you'll be led to the next level of understanding your purpose. It could be looking at blueprintprocess.com. It could be reaching out to one of the practitioners. It could be doing one of the study items I'm going to give you here in a minute. Just let your curiosity let God pull you, and He will. He will pull you to the next step. Again, either with the tickle of a feather or the whomp of the sledgehammer. Either way, it works. All right, so let's go back to the very first topic, which was that God's doing your purpose in you, because again, purpose is a divine event. You didn't choose it, He chose it. He chose it, and He built you able to do it. Not only able to do it, but so that you love the doing of it. So to try to set down that ego spectrum more and trust God, listen to God, here's an activity for you. It's much like, if someone was doing, let's say, a food journal for the purpose of losing weight, they would probably record every single thing they ate, right? So let's you and I, in order to become more cognizant of the ego spectrum, let's you and I record all the times that we think we're all that in a bag of chips, and let's record all the times that we think we suck. By recording them, you will become aware of them. By becoming aware of them, you'll remember this conversation, and you'll be more likely to say, okay, God, so sorry. I was trying to take over there for a minute, which, by the way, I still find myself caught up in this trap. So sorry. I was trying to captain the ship. My apologies. Let me step back. Let me ask you, where would you like my light to shine? Where would you like me to work? Whom would you like me to work with? What would you like me to do, study, research, whatever? Let Him move through you, and you'll find once again that your doing is more effective, more efficient, and more fun. You'll find space opening up in your days because your work is so much more efficient and effective. It truly is magical and amazing. So that's a suggestion. That's an action item that you can take from today's webinar, is to record all those times that you find yourself on either end of the spectrum and watch for opportunities to step back and let God. And again, if you have any questions about this, all of the Blueprint Process practitioners would be more than happy to talk to you about it and help you in whatever way they feel they can. A second action item for the second point of today's webinar. The second point of today's webinar is that every single one of us is expressing God in unique ways. And when we all do, then we create that beautiful rose. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, I believe that if we were each pursuing our purpose, problems would be getting solved left, right, and center all the time. So instead of seeing more problems than solutions, we'd be seeing more solutions than problems. And when problems arose, people would be applying their blueprint and their purpose to it, and the problems would be getting mitigated. It's amazing. We shouldn't be surprised, actually. If it's God moving through us, of course that's going to happen. Of course, problems will dissolve. So let's do this. So the second action item for the second point, which is that all of us have a purpose and God's expressing Himself uniquely through all of us, I would like to task you with what I refer to as mirroring. Now, mirroring is when you see the God in someone else, you just let them know, whether verbally, email, text, phone call, whatever, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Just like Carl, the dude I was telling you about with the son, when he told his son, hey, it looks like you're just playing a video game, but really you're expressing these skills these passions, these values. And together they started to wonder over time, what does that mean for Carl's son's life? What kind of impact could you have on another person merely because you opened your mouth and you said, you know what I see in you? Because remember, purpose comes so naturally to each one of us that we're tempted to dismiss it. Like, it can't be that big of a deal. I'm not having to work that hard. There's no sweat on my brow. So it must not be that big of a deal. That's a false paradigm. And unfortunately, that's a world's paradigm that's false. That in order to create value, we have to twist ourselves into a pretzel, or we have to work until sweat is dripping in our eyes. That's not true. When we're creating our best value, we're so enjoying it. Smile on our face, energy for miles. That's what it feels like when you're doing your true work. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is the people around you are going to be struggling with that same paradigm. So when they're doing something that comes effortlessly, naturally, and with confidence, they're going to assume wrongly that it does not create value. We don't want them thinking that anymore. We want them to realize that they are a rare example of whatever that skill, value, or passion is. We want to encourage them to use it more, to choose projects based on whether or not their projects allow them to use that thing. Because again, it is God expressing himself in them. That's why it's natural and full of confidence for them. So those are your 2 tasks after today's webinar, should you choose to accept them. First one, record every time you find yourself in the ego spectrum. Either I'm all that in a bag of chips, or I suck. I should give up now. Just record those 2 extremes, and just recording them will wake you up more and more to the reality that you're not doing anything. It's God that's doing it through you. Second action item, mirror, mirror, mirror as much as you can. The coolest side effect of this is in those close personal relationships that we all have, whether a significant other or a kid, a family member. Sometimes, as you know, those can be fraught with inharmony, frustration. When you start mirroring, something very interesting happens. You have put into your brain or your reticular activating system, let's say we're talking about your spouse. And let's say right now your spouse is somewhat frustrating you. And let's say maybe potentially you're more aware of your spouse's inadequacies, weaknesses, idiosyncrasies than you are aware of your spouse's greatness. Hypothetical. If that's the case, then because of your awareness, your reticular activating system is actually looking for those things. So whether you're feeling this way about your kids or your significant other or your parents or siblings or whatever, if you're frustrated with them, your reticular activating system is just going to look for more reasons to be frustrated with them. Probably not the direction you want to go. If you want more harmony in these close personal relationships, then shift your reticular activating system's orders. Instead of telling your reticular activating system to go find you more reasons to be frustrated with them, tell your reticular activating system to go find blueprint items, values, skills, passions, so that you can mirror back to these people that are close personal relationships in your life. You can mirror to them how you see God in them, how you see them as unique and capable and valuable in this world. I will tell you that there is nothing that will improve your relationships faster than doing that. Just watch. Tell me if I'm wrong. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Keep in mind that if you have any questions, if you need any help with any of this, and if you get the nudge, tickle of a feather, whump of a sledgehammer, please reach out to any one of us. The Blueprint Process practitioners, we love talking about this stuff, and we love helping people find their purpose and use it to help the world. That is our mission. So reach out to us. We all have the ability for a free call. So you can count on that. You can reach out to us for free, and we'd love to help you. So just go to blueprintprocess.com and we'll be there for you. Finally, next month, I believe it's March 27th, the fourth Wednesday of the month at noon Pacific. Yes, March 27th at noon Pacific. We'll be continuing this conversation with principle number 2 of the blueprint process, which is that you are one of a kind and that you're one of a kind for a reason. I will look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you so much again for hanging out with me, and we'll see you next month at the same time.